Most email agencies build flows, but the best ones build conversations. If you're running a 7-figure company, that could be the difference between hundreds of thousands in additional revenue. Every e-commerce agency today is building email flows, but the thing is, most of those flows are static. They're designed once, left untouched, and then just left to rot. They might sell products, but they don't learn, they don't ask questions, and they don't keep up with how fast your customer is changing. That's why so many brands are stuck with the same old tired formula, with the broadcast style emails, with the header, the product block, the discount, the CTA, rinse and repeat. And meanwhile, consumers are drowning in emails. Statista reported that 347 billion emails are sent every single day. So if your emails don't feel alive, they get ignored. So if you have static flows, that's like leaving a pre-recorded voicemail for whenever somebody calls you. Whereas smart flows are the opposite. They're more like a conversation where they change based on what the other person says. Let's talk about the psychology of static flows for a second and why it's bad. As humans, we're wired for reciprocity. We pay attention to something when it responds to us. And so a static welcome flow, for example, with a day 1 email, day 2, day 3, just tends to feel quite transactional. But if your emails adapt, they pause when somebody buys, they branch when somebody clicks twice, or change based on a survey response, it feels more like a conversation. This small change taps into a deeper bias, and in today's world, it's even more important. And that bias is that people value relevance, and relevance earns loyalty. So what separates the modern agencies then from the ones that just do the same old tired strategies that don't update and learn based on the customer's behavior? Well, first things first, they don't just collect the usual sign-up data like the first name and the email. They collect a lot more than that, such as zero-party data from quizzes or surveys, on-site behavior such as browsing or add to cart events, and source-specific emails based on where they entered your funnel. All of this together creates a living profile of your customer. The second thing they do is turn flows into feedback loops. So instead of those rigid day 1, day 2, day 3 sequences, smart flows change based on people's behavior. And the third thing, which in my opinion is the most valuable in today's world, is that they use email to ask and not just to tell. For example, polls asking people what their favorite product is from your brand, or asking their preference links for the types of email content you want to send, or just asking for direct responses to your emails with suggestions or feedback. Every small interaction, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is a micro conversation between you and your customer. And even better, the more information that you learn about these customers, the more you can sharpen your email strategy so that it suits them better. However, most brands are still making 3 big mistakes when it comes to setting up their flows. The first is very common, which is set and forget. And whilst your automations will consistently bring in a generous amount of revenue for you each month on autopilot, flows that were built 2 years ago are not going to convert anywhere near what they did today. You need to be refreshing them at least every 2 years, but ideally you want to do them maybe every 6 to 12 months, and also be split testing something new every single week. The second thing is over-segmentation. So there's no point to segment your list if you don't also have individual emails that are specifically designed for that segment. So if you're not changing any of the messaging or the offer or the design or anything that is different and that is important, then there's no point to segment your list. So make sure that when you segment, you also update the email designs for that specific target audience as well. And the third is not leveraging third-party signals. So you're sitting on gold in your reviews, your subscription data, survey tools, or any other preferences that that customer has told you directly or indirectly. And if you're not syncing that information with Klaviyo, then you're losing out on a lot of additional information that can help to sharpen your email strategy and improve the experience for the customer. Let me give you a real-world example real quick. We worked with an e-com brand that had a strong creative but quite flat results. Their welcome flow was converting at about 2% and their post-purchase click-through rate was around 4%. After layering in a preference quiz, some behavior triggered content and some micro surveys, we got some pretty good results. Welcome flow jumped up to a 4.8% conversion, their post-purchase click-through rate jumped to 9.2%, and unsubscribe rates dropped by 27%. So pretty good results overall. So that's the difference between static flows and smart smart conversations where your emails start adapting to the customer instead of shouting at them. So what does all this mean for you as an e-commerce brand owner? Well, if your agency is only talking about subject lines, deliverability, those kind of high-level topics to running an email system, then they're missing the big picture. Email is no longer just a channel with some standard KPIs to hit. It's a living extension of your brand. You need somebody who understands this and also treats email like a behavioral strategist would. Because in the UK, the US, really anywhere, competition is fierce and fatigue is real. So the brands who build conversations are going to be the ones that outlast the brands who just blast promotions. At Surefire Media, we help e-com brands build retention systems that think. If your flows are starting to feel a little bit stale, then let's work to turn them into real conversations. You can visit surefiremedia.com to book in a call with me, or you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Jack Shaw. Thank you for watching.